The night was darker than usual, and the river beneath the bridge churned like an angry beast. In the stillness, broken only by the rustle of leaves and the far-off sound of traffic, a young woman named Alina stood trembling, her wrists bound by coarse rope. Behind her, 3 men sneered with cruel satisfaction. They were men who thought power was their birthright, tyrants in every sense, men who preyed on the vulnerable, who silenced voices that dared to rise against them. And Alina, soft-spoken yet stubborn, had refused to stay silent. That was her crime. Alina had grown up in a small town where corruption ran deeper than the river itself. Her father had been a simple fisherman, her mother a schoolteacher. They had taught her the value of truth, kindness, and courage. But when her mother exposed local officials stealing funds meant for the schoolchildren, she was silenced. The whispers never confirmed how, but Alina knew. Her father soon fell ill and passed away without proper care because the same leaders had drained the town of its resources. At just 18, Alina was left alone, carrying the weight of grief and the burning knowledge that evil had a name, and it wore human faces. She refused to let the tyrants choke her town any longer. At first, she spoke quietly, gathering mothers, fathers, and students, encouraging them to demand what was rightfully theirs. But the louder her voice grew, the more dangerous her world became. She received threats, had her windows smashed, even lost her job. Still, she did not stop. Her defiance became the beating heart of a movement, and for the first time in years, the town felt a flicker of hope. And so the tyrants decided to crush her. That night on the bridge, their plan was simple: make her vanish. One of the men shoved her toward the edge, whispering, "This is where courage ends." The wind whipped through her hair, the river hissed below, and for the first time, fear threatened to swallow her whole. But deep within, she remembered her mother's words: even in the darkest water, light finds a way to rise. With one final shove, they cast her into the abyss. The icy water engulfed her body, dragging her down, numbing her limbs. Panic screamed through her veins, but so did something else, an unbreakable will. She thrashed, fought, clawed against the current. Every memory of her parents, every smile of a child she had promised to protect, every injustice she had endured, these became her strength. She refused to let them win. Minutes later, as the tyrants peered over the edge, expecting silence, a gasp tore through the darkness. From the waves, Alina's figure broke the surface, clinging to a piece of driftwood that the current had carried to her like destiny's hand. She was bloodied, exhausted, but alive. And when she pulled herself onto the muddy bank downstream, villagers who had gathered in secret, supporters who had followed her journey, rushed to her side. Their shocked cries turned to roars of defiance. The tyrants had tried to bury her in water, but instead, they had raised a storm. Word spread like wildfire. What was meant to be her end became the spark of a revolution. The villagers no longer feared the men who had terrorized them for years. Standing beside Alina, they marched, demanded justice, and exposed the crimes that had drained their lives dry. The men who had thrown her from the bridge were stripped of their power and faced the punishment they thought they were immune to. But Alina's story was not about vengeance. It was about survival, about resilience that turned pain into power. She bore scars from that night, both visible and hidden, yet she carried them with pride. They were proof that darkness could try to drown her, but she was made to rise. In time, the bridge became a symbol, not of terror, but of triumph. Parents would point to it and tell their children, that's where fear was thrown into the water, and courage came back stronger. Alina stood with them, no longer just a survivor, but a leader whose voice could not be silenced. She reminded everyone who heard her story that tyrants could throw you into the depths, but the waves themselves could lift you higher than you ever imagined. Because sometimes, what rises from the water isn't just a person, it's a movement, a hope, a fire that no current can extinguish.